Okay, how's everybody doing today? My name is Kent, and it's October 2nd, 11:52 in the AM here in San Diego, California. And I want to discuss something that I've always thought about. And I always say I like making these videos in times that are interesting. If nothing's really happening when Bitcoin's trading flat and there's nothing really going on in the world, it's not as fun to make these videos as it is when there's a lot going on. And believe me, today there's a lot going on, a lot going on. Um, and I want to discuss some of this stuff because it's crazy stuff. It's stuff that really does present itself as things that probably make it so that we're in some, if you have a foundation in the Bible, and you should, if you don't believe in the Bible, you should believe in the Bible. And I'll tell you one reason why you should believe in the Bible is because the news is being completely consumed right now with what's going on in the Middle East. And it could shake the world up. And I think it's why Bitcoin is going down right now. That's shaking the world up, what's going on in the Middle East. And that was predicted in the Bible a long time ago. And if you were born in the early 1900s or 1800s, you had no idea what they were talking about when they were focusing on Israel in end times, in the book of Revelation and so on and so forth, because it hadn't existed yet. It didn't exist till, I think, 1948, I think is when Israel came back into existence. When did Israel come back into existence? When was Israel formed? May 14th, 1948. So if you live prior to this day, the Bible wouldn't even add up because you're talking about things that there was no Israel. And when has a nation ever come back into existence? And there's a lot of Bible prophecy about it. I'm not going to go into it. But when has something ever come back into existence that's been gone for so long? As when Israel was separated, the tribes were all thrown out, like all over the place, all over the world. The Jews were scattered, and they came back to the Promised Land. This is something that probably no one could have predicted before 1948. So yeah, that the Bible is true just based on that one prophecy. That could be the chances that happen are almost inconceivable. So I want to talk about Bitcoin a little bit because I am a huge Bitcoin person. I love Bitcoin, and I've been talking about Bitcoin for a long time. But I always had a little bit of an idea about Bitcoin. What is the existence? What is the true origin of Bitcoin? I mean, we don't know a whole lot about Bitcoin because we don't know about who Satoshi is. We don't know much about, we don't know nothing about Satoshi. And here this is a $1 trillion asset. And we know nothing about the person that created it. And we know nothing about even the people around him that created it. So I always have this little bit of a problem with Bitcoin. Thank you. Is Bitcoin really of origins of being organic from somebody that was just fed up with the banking system and wanted to create something outside the banking system, some peer-to-peer network where people could trade with each other without having a third party with the banks? Is that what it really is? Organic, true person, somebody did that? Or is this some sort of government invention that is meant to put people on the blockchain or put everybody on some sort of public ledger so everybody operates in an environment where everything is known about him? In other words, like Donald Trump, he hasn't paid any taxes for a number of years. Well, the reason he hasn't paid any taxes is because self-reporting. He's been able to report what it is he makes and what he reports, what he spends, and it's always coming out to be that he doesn't pay any taxes. Now, if everything was on the blockchain, he may not get away with that. So if your entire world is on the blockchain, that's kind of a good thing for people that want to keep track of you, which is what happens in the end of the days, end of times, when people are being tracked by some sort of public ledger. So my thing was the government creating Bitcoin to control the people, put everybody on the public ledger so that we wouldn't have any kind of self-reporting anymore? Now they would know what you had to do. It wasn't up to you to self-report your taxes or have an accountant and keep your own books. Now everything's just known. You don't even have to file a tax return. They already know what your income is. They know what your expenses is because it's on the blockchain. This would be very convenient for some sort of world economic system. And I'm going to show you just real quick what I'm talking about. So if you go to Revelation, and of course, I'm someone that's a strong believer in the Bible. And because I believe in the Bible, because I see so much of this stuff coming true. You see what's going on in Iran, what's going on in Israel right now. You could see that that's starting to be a war that's talked about it in the end times. And this is also talked about in the end times. Let's talk about 17. Here, I'm going to read this real quick to you. So let's go start with 17. And gotta get space there and go all the way to 18. Just read 17 and 18. So here he goes. I'll just read it from the NIV. Let me see. This is not where I want. Let me get more specific here. I just want a couple verses. Am I on the right verse? No, I'm not. That's why it's 13. Should have had this lined out before. Sorry about that. Okay, here's wisdom. Let's just start right here. Anyway, I'll just tell you. I'll just read it from my text right here. I won't put it online. Here it is. Says, he also. This is talking about the Antichrist. So this is talking about the Antichrist, which is, and the Antichrist is not. A lot of people say it's a system. It's a system, and it's not a system. It's a person, because the reason this is a person is because it says the number. Okay, it says if one is wise and has understanding to count the number of the beast, which is the Antichrist, which is also the number of a man. The number, it comes to 666. People use this for all. It used to be a barcode, used to be credit cards. Well, the number 666 just represents a man, because 7 is God, 6 is man. And it even says the number of a man. So we're talking about a specific man here. It's the Antichrist. This is a person. This is not a system. This is not the internet. This is not anything. This is a system. But he says he also forces everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on his right hand or on his forehead, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark, which is the name of the beast, the number of his name. So this is a system where everybody can be tracked, because you can neither buy nor sell unless you have this mark. So everything, it's not like I can go exchange some gold coins for something or anything like that. This is everybody. So the only way to do that is you have to have some sort of system with a ledger where you can actually track people and know what they're doing. And this is why I think Bitcoin could be part of end times prophecy. Literally, Bitcoin is the system that's talked about in the book of Revelation as far as being able to track people. Now, is that meaning that you shouldn't be involved with Bitcoin and Bitcoin's nefarious because it's going to be used to track people, trace people, and let the beast know who you are? I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. I love Bitcoin. I've owned Bitcoin for a long time. But I think until I know for sure that Bitcoin is part of the system or something like that. It doesn't say in the Bible that you shouldn't participate in Bitcoin. It just says you shouldn't take the mark of the beast. So the mark of the beast is the tattoo in the forehead of it. So as long as you don't do that, I think you're okay. And I do think this indicates where the direction of Bitcoin's going, which is a much, much higher. I think we're looking at Bitcoin probably going into the six figures here very soon. Once this thing shakes out in the Middle East, I think that you're going to see Bitcoin going much, much higher. Because you see there's so many things going on. It's hard to really put it. And I like to keep these videos very short because I don't like to see hour-long videos. That's boring. But the thing about it is you have problems on the East Coast with the strike, supply chain. You got Middle East problems, and you got economy problems with inflation, and you got a dollar that they've decided to sacrifice in place of the bond market. So the bond market, long bond, is in trouble. Long bonds meaning people borrowing money for long periods of time. Nobody wants to set that fixed rate because we don't know how much it's going to be. The money you're paying back is going to be watered down money. So if I borrow a 30-year fixed mortgage like most people do for a house, over the 30 years, the money you're paying back every year, that money is going to be worth less and less and less. A guy like Donald Trump thinks we're at 20% inflation. He may be right. There are things out that are inflating at 20%. So, if you're paying back money and there's a 20% inflation over a matter of a few years, the money that you've borrowed is going to go, you're going to pay back in weaker dollars. So it's not very good for the lender over long periods of time. So long bond is not very good. and that's how the government finances itself, is by lending money, the treasuries. So what they've decided to do is water down the currency, make the currency worth less. So, and then be able to use that money to purchase bonds so that they can purchase enough bonds in order to keep the government afloat. And that's what they're doing. And I heard something kind of interesting, that the Fed literally has the power to remonetize certain assets. So in other words, the government owns, and I'm not a gold and silver person, I'm a Bitcoin person, but I do understand the power of gold and silver. So the government owns a lot of gold. We don't know, but a lot. If they revalued that gold at, and I think it's like $2,500, $2,600 an ounce right now. Let's say they revalued it at $10,000 an ounce. And now they used some of their gold to purchase bonds in order to keep the government stable, so the government can continue to honor the bond agreements and purchase bonds, so they can continue to create this deficit that they've done. So they could remonetize gold at $10,000 an ounce, buy bonds, and keep the bond market strong. And that's what I think they may do, something like that. Make gold $10,000 an ounce. Or they can run a Bitcoin. They own a lot of Bitcoin. They can run Bitcoin up to $500,000 of Bitcoin and use that, sell their Bitcoin to buy bonds. The Feds could buy the bonds in order to keep the bond market strong. This could all be done. And this is the direction I think we're going. We're going to massive inflation. The government's going to keep the bond market strong, and they're going to sacrifice the currency by continuing to water down and inflate the currency to the point where it's going to be hard for anybody to exist without some sort of way of being able to leverage money and everything. I'm listening to these guys that are on the East Coast on strike. I mean, they are living in the past. They're trying to negotiate out for, I don't know how many years, some sort of 70% pay increase. And then they want to keep from anything being, they want to keep the companies from being able to do any kind of automation. So they don't want their jobs to be taken away. Because a lot of the jobs are just lifting a container up, taking it off a ship, putting it on a truck. That can all be automated, and they don't want that to happen. So they're fighting against, technology, and they're trying to cut themselves a space outside of technology, and outside of the fact that even if they get a 70% increase over the next 10 years, I think that's what they were asking for. Is that even going to be enough? I don't know. It may not be. But they're trying to fight a battle that in today's world is not going to work very well. But they're going to mess up the economy in the meantime, because they're very stubborn about what they're doing. Now that's a problem, because when you got people that's still stuck in this old economy where we're not going to be automated and we're going to negotiate for 10 years on our thing, they haven't really realized what's happening right now. They haven't realized that the currency is going to be inflated to the point that no matter how much they negotiate, it's never going to be enough. That's the way I believe it's going to happen. You're never going to get enough. That's why I make these videos about people and jobs. A job is old way of thinking. You're never going to trade enough of your energy for the currency at the rate the currency is being inflated. So you get a job, and if the currency, like Donald Trump says, is being inflated 20% a year, you got to get a 20% raise every year, or your job is never going to pay your bills. And that's what's happening. And that's why people are so pissed off at this kind of an economy. And we are in a pissed off economy. Believe me, I see it all the time. And if I make a video about jobs, it'll get 50,000 views. I make a video about some other topic, it'll get 300 views, because people are pissed off about jobs right now and the ability to try to pay for things, because it's almost impossible the way we're handling this. And I don't think it's going to be any different under any president or anything like that. Another thing in that 14 minutes, I want to say real quick. I watched the debate last night. I don't generally watch debates because I'm not interested in politics. I could really care less. Don't even think I'm going to vote. I don't think I'm mandated by anybody to vote. Everybody says go out and vote. I'm not going to vote because I don't like anybody, and I don't want anybody, because what I hear is very distasteful for me, especially as my true allegiance is to Jesus Christ and to the kingdom of God, not to the Democrats or the Republicans or anybody like that. I'm completely against a lot of what they say, and I don't want to be in anybody's camp, because I'm only in one camp, and that's the camp of the Lord Jesus Christ, the hat that I wear and the cross that I wear too. But anyway, I watched that debate last night, and I really was very impressed with both the guys. I mean, I thought both the guys, the one guy is from the state of Nebraska, just like me, Tim Walz. The other guy is a smart guy. He's a very smart guy. Vice President J.D. Vance. He's a smart guy. He presented himself very well. I thought he's articulate. He's smart. He had great communication skills, and he did a great job. And to me, I wish those two were running instead of who is running. I don't want Kamala Harris. I don't want Donald Trump. I'd rather see those two guys run. I'd be more likely to vote if I saw those two guys running instead of the ones that are running. But anyway, I'd like to bring up one point about that debate. A very close debate. Everybody says that J.D. Vance won. He probably did. But one of the things about that really troubled me was J.D. Vance is a smart guy, intelligent guy, graduates from Yale Law School, comes from a very dysfunctional family. Mother was a drug addict, raised by people that were very impoverished. He didn't come from much. Went to Ohio State, went to Yale Law School, got involved with our good buddy Peter Thiel. I mean, I don't like Peter Thiel. He basically robbed us in EOS. But anyway, Peter Thiel, guy with Elon Musk, created PayPal together. They were once against each other, and then they decided to get together. I don't trust Peter Thiel for anything. But anyway, this guy worked himself up. He's a smart guy, not a dumb guy, not a guy to talk out of turn. Pretty brilliant guy. I don't agree with a lot of what he says, but I do agree with some of what he says. And I do think he does have a moral compass. But one of the things that does bother me about the man is that he called Donald Trump for what he was in the very beginning. He said he was America's Hitler. Tim Walz tried to pin him down on that last night. And he just said, oh, well, I didn't know at the time. And I just that was just a statement I said because I didn't understand Donald Trump until I got to know him a little bit better. I think that was total BS. I think that he is just pandering to Donald Trump right now because he is somebody that's smart and he's somebody that wants to get to the top of the political. He's 40 years old. I mean, he's a young man. He's got a lot of, he's looking for his own political path. And he knows by being vice president, that's going to help him. So he's pandering to Trump. He knows Trump is not a good dude. Trump's a bad dude. Trump's got a lot of problems. And Trump could very well be the Antichrist. I mean, I've seen a lot of parallels between the Antichrist and Donald Trump. So the fact that he's pandering so much, if I was Walz, I would have really pinned him down on some of the things he said about Trump. Being, he did talk about his chief of staff and some of the other people that worked on his cabinet that said that Trump was one of the worst people they've ever known. I like one of the, my wife's brother said he was at a banquet one time with the former governor of Nebraska, and they were talking about Trump at the time he was president. And my brother-in-law said, he's probably the worst president we've ever had. And this governor, I can't remember which governor it was. I'll think about it in a second. But anyway, he's not the worst president we've ever had. He's the worst person we've ever had. So he's not the worst president. He's the worst person. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But anyway, like I say, I could see Donald Trump getting to be president, going over, destroying Iran, making a peace treaty with Israel, which is all things the Antichrist will do. Once he makes a treaty with Israel, he can violate that peace treaty by going over and doing what they call the abomination of desolation, whatever it is. But anyway, he violates the temple that the Jews, are building again, because they want to start the animal sacrifices. He goes over and desecrates that. If he does that, then that does trigger end times, and it's lining up that way. I'm not saying Donald Trump's the Antichrist. I haven't been convinced of that yet, but I'm saying somebody's going to do it, and it's going to happen. And at the time it happens, then we could be in a worldwide problem where we are in the final 3.5 years of a 7-year period. The desolation of abomination. What is that? I can't remember. But anyway, it's the violation of the temple, and you can understand why God gets pissed off about that. Because God establishes that temple, and that from the very beginning, from Abraham, on, it's been the temple of God. And once they resurrect or rebuild the temple, and the Antichrist comes in and desecrates it, then God just basically turns it over to the devil and says, "Hey, Satan, you want him? You got him." So that's when things really get. That's when all hell breaks loose. That's when the Christians are persecuted and things aren't going well. This could very well happen. We're lining up for that. You got Iran and Israel in a fight right now. You got Donald Trump says he's going to take care of Iran if he gets into office. And if he does that, hey, we could be moving into those times real quickly. There's a lot of things that Donald Trump doesn't add up to either. He's getting elected to. I think he will be elected. He probably will be elected for U.S. president. the Antichrist is world leader, so somehow he's going to have to bridge between being a U.S. president and a world leader, and I don't know how he does that. That has yet to be seen. And then the other thing, he got shot in the ear. The Antichrist gets a mortal wound, which means that he will, that's a mortal wound, a fatal wound, where it appears he may not be dead, but it appears to everybody that he is dead and is resurrected. And that's when he becomes, the beast. So yeah, this is all kinds of stuff that's really kind of interesting for me. And it all kind of blends into Bitcoin. And that's why I ask these questions about Bitcoin, because I always like to think of Bitcoin, and I would say in my personal understanding of Bitcoin, I would say it's about 80% probably true organically. Satoshi maybe acted alone, maybe acted with somebody else, but tried to remain very, very discreet or very unknown, because at the time, I think you had BitCash and some of these other people where the feds were arresting people, throwing them in prison for many, many years because of the fact that there was illegal activity going on in some of these cryptocurrency that were predated Bitcoin. So this could be, a lone actor, Satoshi, that really was very careful about his identity and kept it secret. Or it could be some NSA thing, and it could be governments trying to establish some sort of system when they knew the dollar was collapsing, that it was going to collapse. It wasn't a forever thing. Eventually people would figure it out, and it just couldn't print enough to keep up with all the problems. And that's what they're having today. Can't keep up. That's their liquidity problems. There's a funny quote that, here, let me see if I can find this. This is worth putting in the video. Robin Williams on liquidity. Let me see if I can find the actual video. Just listen to this. This is crazy. This is funny.
I talk to them about being like a group of junkies who've relapsed, going, listen, man, I just need some liquidity. You know what I'm saying? I just ran into some bad subprime, We just had complex formulas. We just didn't factor in greed and panic, I just need $805 billion by Tuesday. Yeah, no, seriously. No, I won't.
That was made a long time ago, and let me tell you what, the words could not be more true today. That he nailed it. There are liquidity problems, and they're going to have to raise the price of some assets to get these liquidities up to where they needed to be. And that's what I'm going to say. They may remonetize gold. They remonetize Bitcoin. Donald Trump wants to hold Bitcoin. He said he's going to hold Bitcoin as an asset for the country, as a reserve asset for the country, just like we're holding gold. They may run Bitcoin up to $1 million and then just use that $1 million to keep the bond market going. $1 million Bitcoin to keep the bond. That's why you see Michael Saylor and some of these guys saying it could be $1 million Bitcoin, because they may have to remonetize something because they got some asset up high enough, some value of it high enough, so they can use that as collateral to get liquidity. Just like Robin Williams says, they need liquidity. He's like a junkie right now. They need liquidity. They gotta have money. And how do you get that money? You got to get it some way. You got to remonitor. That's what's going on in the housing market. I mean, you got $1 million houses all over this country right now. When I was a kid, you'd never heard of them. If you had $1 million house, you would probably think, you're one of the richest people in the country. Now $1 million houses are everyday ordinary houses here in Southern California. It hasn't been that the house got all that much more valuable. Is that the money got worth less value. So now the house is the asset that has to rise in order to keep up with the money that's being printed. So you got the houses just automatically go up. It's a squeeze, and it's put people on the streets. And that's the way the system's working. That's why people are pissed off, man, because this is what's going on in the world. They're just printing money so fast that you cannot make enough at a job. You cannot make enough at a business in order to keep up with it. And I do believe this is the end game. I think right now, all activity, I used to be a farmer, so I can tell you right now, I think I just looked at the corn price, like $4.50 or 30 cents to 20 cents a bushel. There's no farmer making the money at that kind of money price. One day, all these farmers are going to wise up, and there are already a bunch of them on YouTube, because they're probably making more on YouTube than they are farming. They're going to wise up and they're going to say, why do I go out and borrow $10 million to put this corn crop in the ground, and at the end of the year sell it for probably less than I have in it? And maybe somehow through the way the tax laws work, I get some sort of benefit, or maybe my land appreciates a little bit if I can continue to make my land payments. But outside of that, I'm not getting ahead. I'm burning my life up, farming and I'm not making any money. How long before these guys figure out, you know what? If I take that $10 million I use for operating my 3,000 acre farm and I just threw it in Bitcoin this year, would I do better than if I farmed? I think that's going to eventually happen to everybody. It happened to Michael Saylor. That's what happened to Michael Saylor. That's why Michael Saylor is such a bull on Bitcoin. That's why he sits around and makes Bitcoin videos all day instead of running his business about MicroStrategies. Because he sat down and realized, if I got to go out and get clients with MicroStrategies, I got to keep my shareholders happy. I got to generate business in this AI and artificial intelligence world. What MicroStrategies did is they were just a company that was, it's kind of a, they had software to help people predict what was going on in the future with their business. And he realized that wasn't working anymore. He needed to find another route. And that's when he discovered Bitcoin. And he says, if I put all our company's money into Bitcoin, I'm going to do better than if I'm running my business. And he has a very inexpensive, low overhead business to run. It's a software company. What about these people that are running trucking companies? What about these people that are farming? What about these people that are running construction companies? And you got supply chain problems, and you got the fact that, the overhead and the money is going away quickly, and you can't make enough money to keep ahead of the game. Like I say, I can make a video and get 50,000 views with 6,000 subscribers. So I talk about how bad it is to, how getting a job and keeping up with the rate of inflation. People are feeling this thing. And how long before every business in the country realizes it's better if we just put the money in Bitcoin or gold than it is if we operate our business. It's going to make us more money, and we're not going to have the headache, and we're not going to have to run around like a bunch of chickens with our heads cut off trying to keep up with this supply chain problem, with the fact the money becomes buys less, employment becomes more difficult, employees become more difficult, everything becomes more difficult. And, it just, at the end of the day, you say, hey, throw up your hands and say, I'm just going to buy Bitcoin and forget about running my business. If I put grab some money, a couple $1 million, throw it in Bitcoin, and like it's done over 135. Let me see what it's done this last year, over 100%. Yeah, 1 year today is 117%. How many businesses lost money last year? Probably most of them, especially with this inflation rate. Most businesses, if they would have taken the money and thrown it in Bitcoin, probably would have been better off than running a business. So how long before everybody figures that out? Michael Saylor's already figured that out. Okay, I got a comment here. So, okay. I don't know what that means, but anyway. Forename, surname, and this. Yeah. So I appreciate it. I haven't been on for a while, so anybody makes a comment, I appreciate it. So yeah, how long before that happens? And see, that's why Michael Saylor says this is where it's going. Companies, instead of putting money in, in any place, holding the money on the books, putting the money in any kind of asset, putting the money in banks, how long before they figure out, hey, it's going to be better off if we just dump the money in Bitcoin or even gold? Man, I think gold is, let me see what gold's doing today. You know what? I lost money in gold. I've never made money in gold. So I've not been a big gold person, but it's down a little bit today. But it was just how, if you look at a year here, I mean, look, gold is just heading up. It's just heading up. I never liked gold because it can be shorted real easily, and it's a commodity like all this other commodities I used to be involved with, corn and wheat and all that other stuff when I was a farmer. But anyway, yeah, this stuff is all going up. So let's keep an eye on things. I'll try to make more videos. I'll make them live from now on. It makes it easier for me. I don't have to walk along the beach. And the other thing is, it just makes it more consistent. I think people like consistency. I appreciate you watching. Thank you.